When I first walked through the glass doors of my new office, I could almost taste the scent of ambition in the air. Everything was sleek, modern, and coldly perfect, from the silver elevator doors to the marble reception desk. It was exactly the kind of place I had dreamed of working at when I decided to rebuild my life. I took a deep breath and straightened my blazer, reminding myself that this was my new beginning. A place where the past couldn't reach me. At least that's what I thought. The receptionist smiled politely and asked my name. Emily Carter. New marketing analyst? She typed quickly and handed me a visitor badge. Welcome, Miss Carter. HR will meet you on the 18th floor. 18th floor. High enough to see the world differently. As I stepped into the elevator, my hands trembled slightly. It wasn't fear, it was something else. Hope, maybe. The hope that after years of heartbreak, struggle, and scraping my way back up, I was finally where I belonged. I had spent the last 4 years studying, working nights and proving to myself that I was more than what Ryan made me believe. Ryan? The name itself felt like a scar that had faded but still stung when touched. I had loved him deeply once, trusted him blindly. But when his dreams collided with mine, he didn't think twice before choosing himself over us. The elevator chimed, interrupting my thoughts. The doors opened to a floor lined with glass offices and buzzing with confidence. I followed the HR lady through the corridor as she explained company policies, but my mind drifted. Every step I took echoed with the sound of my second chance. Your department head will meet you shortly, the HR woman said, leading me into a bright conference room. He's in a meeting right now, but he insisted on welcoming you personally. That felt nice, professional, even respectful. I smiled. Thank you. I stood by the window, looking down at the city that used to scare me once. Now, it just felt like a playground waiting for me to claim it. Then, the door clicked open behind me. The footsteps that entered were confident, familiar, and painfully unforgettable. My heart froze before my mind even registered his voice. Emily? No, it couldn't be. I turned slowly, and there he was, Ryan Blake, the man who broke my heart and vanished without looking back. Only now he wasn't the struggling intern I once knew. He was dressed in a sharp navy suit, every inch of him polished, powerful, and in control. For a second, neither of us spoke. The silence was heavy with the ghosts of what we used to be. He blinked first. You work here? I forced myself to stand straight. Yes, marketing department. I didn't know you were the CEO. He gave a tight, almost smug smile. Things change, Emily. So do people, I thought. Especially the ones who hurt you. I managed a professional smile. Congratulations. Seems like life's been good to you. He studied me with that same sharp gaze that used to see through me so easily. It has. You look different. I grew up, I said softly. For a moment, I saw something flicker in his eyes. Maybe guilt, maybe curiosity. But it was gone as quickly as it came. He slid his hands into his pockets. All business now. Well, welcome to the team. I hope you're ready to work hard. I don't treat my employees any differently. Good, I replied, because I don't expect to be treated any differently. Our words were polite, but our eyes said everything our mouths didn't. When he left the room, I finally exhaled. My fingers gripped the edge of the table until the trembling stopped, so this was fate's idea of a joke. The man who had once taught me what love felt like and what betrayal could destroy, now stood above me as my boss. I had two choices. I could crumble like before, or I could rise, show him that the girl he once broke had turned into the woman he could never defeat. I chose the second. By the end of my first week, the tension between us was impossible to ignore. Every meeting, every brief exchange felt like a silent war. He questioned my ideas, pushed me harder than anyone else, and watched me like he was waiting for me to fail. But I didn't. When he rejected my first campaign pitch, I didn't back down. I worked late nights, perfected every detail, and came back stronger. I could tell it frustrated him. Maybe because the Emily he knew used to cry when he raised his voice. This one didn't even flinch. One evening, as I was gathering my things, he walked into my cubicle. The office was quiet, most people gone. He stood there, his hands in his pockets, watching me. You've changed, he said finally. I looked up, tired but calm. So have you. He tilted his head, studying me like I was some mystery he couldn't solve. You're better at this than I expected. Then maybe you shouldn't underestimate me, I replied. His lips twitched, almost like he wanted to smile, but he turned away. Good night, Emily. Good night, Mr. Blake. When he was gone, I sat down again, staring at my reflection in the black screen of my laptop. My pulse was racing, not from fear, but from something more dangerous. The spark of old emotions I thought I had buried long ago. I told myself it was anger. It had to be, but deep down I knew the truth. The way he looked at me, the way my name sounded in his voice, it all stirred something I didn't want to admit still existed. No, not again. I wasn't that girl anymore. This time, the game had changed. And I wasn't playing to love him. I was playing to win. The first month in the company passed like a storm. Long nights, relentless pressure, and a silent battle of wills between me and Ryan. To everyone else, we looked like two professionals who respected each other, but had a sharp difference in approach. But beneath the surface, every word, every meeting was a test. A test of patience, pride, and buried emotions. Ryan didn't make it easy. He questioned every presentation I made, pushed deadlines that were already impossible, and expected me to work twice as hard as anyone else. But I didn't complain. If he thought I'd quit, he clearly didn't remember who I had become. One Friday evening, we had to finalize the new campaign pitch for a major client, Horizon Tech. It was a huge deal, one that could define the company's next quarter. I was leading the creative side, and I'd poured everything into it. By 9 p.m., the office was nearly empty. Only the hum of the air conditioner and the faint buzz of city lights outside kept me company. I was finalizing my slides when Ryan's voice broke the silence. Still here? I looked up to see him leaning against the glass wall, sleeves rolled up, tie loosened. He looked effortlessly composed, the kind of man who always seemed in control of everything, even when he wasn't. Some of us still have work to do, I replied without looking up. He chuckled softly. You always did hate losing. I froze for a second, his words hitting too close to home. That was a long time ago, I said finally. Was it? He asked quietly, walking closer. Because it feels like you're still trying to prove something to me. I turned to face him. No, Ryan, I'm proving something to myself. Our eyes met, and for a moment, the years between us disappeared. I saw the same man who once held my hand in college, who promised we'd conquer the world together, and then left me in pieces when he chose his dream job over our life. He broke the moment first, stepping back and clearing his throat. The board presentation's at 10 sharp Monday. Make sure your team's ready. I already am. He hesitated, then nodded. Good, I wasn't trying to undermine you. You've done well, Emily. That small acknowledgement felt like sunlight breaking through a storm. But before I could respond, he added with a smirk, just don't let it get to your head. The warmth vanished instantly. Good night, Mr. Blake. I left before he could see the tears threatening to escape. Not because he hurt me, but because I hated that he still had the power to make me feel anything. Over the weekend, I buried myself in work. I went through every slide, every statistic, until I knew the presentation like the back of my hand. By Monday morning, I was ready. The boardroom was filled with executives, investors, and the Horizon Tech representatives. Ryan sat at the head of the table, composed as ever. When it was my turn, I stood tall, my voice steady, confident. I didn't look at him, not even once. My focus was on the work, on showing them who I had become. Halfway through, I noticed a flicker of surprise on Ryan's face. My points were strong, my creative approach bold but practical. When I ended the presentation, the room was silent for a heartbeat, then filled with applause. One of the board members leaned forward. Brilliant concept, Miss Carter. This is the kind of innovation we've been missing. I smiled politely. Thank you. Ryan spoke last. His voice was calm, professional. Excellent work, Emily. Let's move forward with your plan. He didn't say much, but I saw something different in his eyes. Respect. Maybe even admiration. For the first time, I felt like the balance between us had shifted. Later that afternoon, my team surprised me with coffee and congratulations. Everyone was excited, laughing, celebrating the success. I smiled with them, but deep down my heart felt heavy. Success was sweet, but the silence after applause always felt too loud. Around 6, as I was about to leave, I saw Ryan standing by the elevator. Emily, he said, his tone softer than usual. Do you have a moment? I hesitated. Depends. Is this about work? Not exactly. That was dangerous territory, but curiosity got the better of me. All right. He led me to the rooftop terrace, a quiet place with a view of the skyline bathed in orange sunset. For a few minutes, neither of us spoke. Then he said almost to himself, "You were always meant for this." I frowned. For what? To succeed. To outgrow everyone's expectations, including mine. There was sincerity in his voice I hadn't heard in years. I crossed my arms, unsure how to respond. That's nice of you to say. He looked at me then, his expression unreadable. I didn't leave because I didn't care, Emily. I left because I thought it was the only way I could become the man you deserved. The words cut deeper than I expected. And did it work? I asked quietly, his jaw tightened. I don't know anymore. I could feel my heart racing, torn between anger and something I didn't want to name. You could have told me that instead of disappearing. You wouldn't have understood back then. You didn't give me the chance. The tension between us grew heavy, filled with the weight of all the things left unsaid. He took a step closer, his voice low. Do you still hate me? I forced myself to meet his gaze. No, Ryan. I stopped hating you the moment I stopped needing your apology. He nodded slowly, like he didn't know whether to feel relieved or wounded. Then maybe we can start over. I took a step back. We can work together, Ryan, that's all. When I walked away, I didn't look back, but I could feel his eyes following me until I disappeared behind the glass doors. That night, I sat alone in my apartment, staring at the city lights. My success felt hollow because the person I wanted to celebrate it with was the same one who had once broken me. Maybe that was the real curse of love. It doesn't die easily. It lingers, waiting for moments like this to remind you that moving on isn't the same as forgetting. I sighed and looked at my phone. One new message from Ryan. Dinner tomorrow. To discuss the next project. Strictly professional. I typed my reply carefully. Sure, strictly professional, but deep down I knew nothing about this would ever stay just professional. Tuesday evening came faster than I expected. All day I tried convincing myself that the dinner with Ryan was just work. Just another meeting. But as I stood in front of my mirror, staring at the navy dress I'd chosen, I knew I was lying to myself. I'd changed my hair twice, switched between 2 lip shades, and spent 10 minutes deciding if heels were too much for a business dinner. It wasn't supposed to matter. But it did. Because no matter how much I tried to bury the past, Ryan Blake was still the one man whose approval, whose gaze could unsettle me. At 7:30 sharp, I walked into the restaurant, a quiet place near the river, softly lit, elegant but not too fancy. The kind of place people came to talk without the noise of the world intruding. Ryan was already there, sitting by the window. His suit was sharp, his hair slightly tousled, and when he looked up and smiled, the years between us melted away. Right on time, he said, standing to greet me. You asked for professional? I replied, keeping my tone steady. Professional can still look beautiful, he said before he could stop himself. Then, realizing what he'd said, he cleared his throat. I mean, you look ready for business. I couldn't help but smile. Nice save. As we sat down, the waiter poured wine. Ryan ordered for both of us, remembering exactly what I used to like. Grilled salmon, lemon butter sauce, and a side of roasted vegetables. I wanted to protest, to tell him I'd changed, but I hadn't. For the first few minutes, we talked strictly about work, the next campaign, client strategy, deadlines. He was composed, articulate, focused. But there was something softer in his tone tonight, something that didn't belong in a boardroom. So, I said after a pause, is this how you handle all your employees? Dinner and fine wine? He smiled slightly. Only the ones who challenge me. Then you must dine out a lot. He laughed, a real laugh this time. The one I remembered from when he used to tease me about burning toast in our tiny college apartment. For a brief moment, it felt like we'd slipped into the past. But the difference was, now there was a wall between us. A wall built from ambition, betrayal, and time. After the main course, conversation shifted from work to life. So, he asked, his voice quiet, did you ever forgive me? The question hit like a spark in the dark. I put down my glass, thinking carefully. Forgiveness isn't something that happens once. It's a choice you keep making every time the memories try to hurt you again. And you still have those memories? Some nights more than others. He looked down, his fingers tightening around his glass. Emily, I didn't just leave for a job. I left because my father was sick. He needed surgery, and the only way I could afford it was by taking that position abroad. I didn't tell you because I didn't want your pity. I wanted you to see me succeed first. The air left my lungs. You mean, all this time, I thought you walked away because I wasn't enough? He shook his head. You were always enough. I just wasn't. My throat tightened. You could have told me. You should have told me. I know, he said softly. By the time I realized how much it cost me, it was too late. For a long moment, neither of us spoke. The restaurant noise faded into the background. It was just us. Two people haunted by the ghosts of what could have been. Finally, I whispered, You hurt me, Ryan. You broke me in ways you'll never understand. His eyes glistened. And I've spent every day since trying to forgive myself for that. There was honesty in his voice, raw, unguarded. I could feel my defenses cracking, but I forced myself to stay grounded. You can't just walk back into my life and fix the past with an apology. I'm not trying to fix it, he said. I just want to be part of your present, even if it's only as your colleague. I studied him for a long time. The man sitting in front of me wasn't the same boy who left me years ago. There was a weight in his eyes, the kind that only comes from regret and growth. Before I could say more, his phone buzzed. He glanced at it and frowned. Everything okay? I asked. He hesitated. It's complicated. Something from my past that won't leave me alone. There it was again. The mystery. A part of him I couldn't read. He put the phone away quickly and forced a smile. Nothing important. Tell me about you instead. You've changed so much, Emily. Stronger, sharper. I had to be, I replied. When people break, they either stay shattered or learn how to rebuild. And you rebuilt beautifully, he said quietly. The intensity in his voice made my heart skip. I looked away, pretending to check my phone. We should probably get the check. He nodded but didn't move. Emily, can I ask you something? What? Do you ever wonder what would have happened if I hadn't left? I met his gaze and forced a small smile. Every day. But then I remind myself, if you hadn't, I wouldn't be the woman I am today. He exhaled slowly. Fair enough. When we stepped out of the restaurant, the night air was cool and the city lights shimmered across the river. For a moment, we stood side by side in silence. Let me drop you home, he offered. I'll take a cab, I said automatically. Please, he insisted. It's late. Against my better judgment, I agreed. The drive was quiet at first, filled with the low hum of music and the city's glow through tinted glass. Halfway through, Ryan broke the silence. You know, he said softly, sometimes I wish I could go back. Not to change things, just to relive the moments I didn't appreciate enough. Like what? I asked. He smiled faintly. Like the way you used to fall asleep while studying and I'd draw on your notebook. Or how you'd dance in the rain, not caring who was watching. My heart twisted painfully. You remember all that? I never forgot. I turned toward the window, trying to hide the tears that had started to form. He didn't speak again after that. When we reached my apartment, he parked quietly. Good night, Emily. Good night, Ryan. But as I reached for the door, he said my name again, softer this time. Emily, if I told you I cut him off. Don't, not tonight. He nodded, his eyes full of something I couldn't face. I stepped out, forcing myself not to look back. But the moment I closed the door behind me, I leaned against it, my heart racing. I'd spent years learning to live without him. And now, in one dinner, he'd undone everything. The next morning at work, things were awkward. Everyone else was buzzing with energy, but between us there was a silence that spoke volumes. Ryan stayed professional, distant even, but every time our eyes met, it felt like electricity. Later that day, I went to drop off some files in his office. He was on a call, his tone cold, sharp. I told you to stay out of this, he said into the phone. If this gets out, it'll destroy everything. When he noticed me, he quickly ended the call. Emily, what's up? I hesitated. Just these reports. Thanks, he said too quickly. I lingered at the door. Ryan, is everything okay? He looked at me conflicted. Some things from the past have a way of coming back at the worst time. That line sent a chill down my spine. Is this about that call last night? He didn't answer directly. You don't need to worry. It's nothing you can't handle, but I wasn't convinced. There was fear in his eyes, not for himself, but for me. As I left his office, I knew one thing for sure. This wasn't just a story about love and regret anymore. Something darker was coming. Something Ryan wasn't telling me, and somehow I was already caught in the middle of it. The next few days at work felt like walking through fog, quiet, uncertain, heavy with unspoken tension. Ryan was different. He still led the meetings, still carried that calm authority, but behind his every word, there was something strained. A restlessness. I tried to ignore it, to bury myself in deadlines and campaigns, but my mind kept circling back to that phone call, his voice low, urgent, warning someone to stay out of this. Something was wrong, and I couldn't stop wondering if it had anything to do with me. On Thursday afternoon, while he was in a meeting with the legal team, I went to his office to drop off a few client proposals. His desk was organized, as always, except for one file left open, a thick folder with my name on the tab. My pulse quickened. Curiosity tugged at me like a string. I hesitated for a moment, then stepped closer. The top page had company records, my department, project stats, performance reviews, all normal. But beneath that was something else. A copy of an old article from 5 years ago, dated shortly after he'd left me. It was about his company overseas, the one he joined after walking out of my life. The headline read, "Blake Industries under investigation for financial misconduct." My breath caught. I skimmed through the piece. Illegal contracts, money laundering, falsified reports. And one name appeared again and again in the text. Ryan Blake. Before I could read more, I heard footsteps approaching. I quickly slid the folder back into place and stepped away from the desk just as the door opened. Ryan walked in, his expression softening when he saw me. "Emily, working late again?" I forced a smile. "Just dropping off some files." His gaze drifted toward the folder on the desk, and for a split second, I saw a flicker of alarm. He knew I'd seen it. "Emily," he said carefully, "how much of that did you read?" "Enough," I replied, my voice tight. "What's going on, Ryan? Why are you being investigated for fraud?" He exhaled slowly, rubbing the back of his neck. "It's not what it looks like." "Then what is it?" "Because from where I'm standing, it looks like the man who broke my heart is now hiding a criminal past." He flinched, then lowered his voice. "I was framed. Back then, I was part of a team handling major international contracts. One of the executives, a man named Charles Grant, used me as a scapegoat. When things went south, he blamed me and disappeared with millions. The company collapsed and I was left to take the fall. I stared at him, my anger battling with confusion. So why come back now? Why this company?" He looked at me, his eyes full of something deeper, regret, maybe fear. "Because Charles Grant is here. He's one of our board investors under a fake name. And I came back to expose him." The room fell silent, my stomach twisted. "You're saying the man who destroyed your career is part of our company?" "Yes," he said grimly. "And if I don't find proof soon, he'll destroy me again, and anyone close to me." The last words hit me like a warning. "Anyone close to you? You mean me?" He didn't answer. He didn't have to. For a long moment, I couldn't breathe. It felt like the ground beneath us was shifting, pulling everything we thought we knew into something darker. So this dinner, the charm, the apologies, all of it was just part of your plan? His eyes widened. "No, Emily, I swear it wasn't like that. I didn't plan to see you again. But once I did, once I realized how much I'd lost, I couldn't stay away." I shook my head. "You're mixing business with emotions again, Ryan. That's what ruined us last time." Before he could answer, there was a knock on the door. It was Mia, my coworker from marketing. "Sorry to interrupt, but the finance director needs both of you in the conference room." I grabbed the folder and followed Ryan out, but something inside me had changed. I wasn't just his employee anymore. I was part of something bigger, a game I didn't understand. The meeting dragged on for an hour, mostly about budgets and upcoming campaigns. But I barely heard any of it. I was watching Ryan, the way his jaw tightened whenever the name Mr. Carter, our new board investor, came up. That must be Charles Grant's alias. After the meeting, as people filed out, I caught Ryan's arm. "Mr. Carter, that's him, isn't it?" He didn't deny it. "Keep your distance from him, Emily, please." "Why? What can he possibly do to me?" He looked at me with genuine fear in his eyes. Because he knows I care about you. And if he suspects that, he'll use you to get to me. That night, I couldn't sleep. Every memory of Ryan, every word, every glance, replayed in my mind. The truth had changed everything. He wasn't just my ex. He was a man fighting ghosts, trying to clear his name in a world built on power and deceit. And now, somehow, I was part of that fight. The next morning, I walked into the office early. The air felt heavier than usual. Ryan wasn't there yet, but on his desk, I saw a sealed envelope with my name on it. Inside was a single note. If anything happens to me, trust no one, especially Carter. My heart raced. Before I could even process it, my phone buzzed. It was a text from an unknown number. We know what Ryan told you. Stay quiet or you'll regret it. I froze. Someone was watching me. Panic surged through me as I looked around the office. The shadows, the glass walls, the feeling of being seen. For the first time, I wasn't sure who I could trust anymore, and somewhere deep down, I knew. The story between Ryan and me wasn't just about love or heartbreak anymore. It was about survival. The next morning, I sat at my desk with Ryan's note still burning a hole in my bag. Every few minutes, I'd glance toward his glass-walled office, waiting for him to walk in. But he didn't. His chair stayed empty. His phone rang unanswered. His coffee mug, the one he always used, was still on the shelf, untouched. By noon, I couldn't take it anymore. I walked over to HR, pretending to ask about some project details, and casually inquired if Ryan had called in sick. The woman at the desk frowned. Mr. Blake called early this morning, said he had a personal emergency and might be out for a few days. A few days? That wasn't like him. Something was wrong. I returned to my desk, but my focus was gone. My screen glowed with numbers and emails I couldn't read. My mind was spinning with what he'd said the night before, and that message, stay quiet or you'll regret it. By afternoon, I made up my mind. If Ryan was gone, I had to find out what was happening myself. I started small, checking company records for Mr. Carter. The system showed a fake name, fake address, fake everything, except for one detail. A personal assistant listed under his account, Laura Grant. My heart stopped. Could she be related to Charles Grant, the man Ryan accused? Using a backdoor login I'd once set up for marketing reports, I accessed the employee registry. There she was, hired just 3 months ago. No prior work history, no listed family. But her emergency contact number had the same area code as the old Blake Industries office, the one from Ryan's past scandal. It wasn't a coincidence. The deeper I looked, the clearer it became. Mr. Carter wasn't just an investor. He was rebuilding the same network that had destroyed Ryan's career years ago. And somehow, they had slipped right into our company. I printed a few documents and tucked them into my folder. I knew if I was caught digging, I could lose my job, or worse. But I had to know the truth. That night, I drove to Ryan's apartment. The lights were off. I knocked once, then twice, no answer. But when I stepped back, I noticed the door wasn't fully locked. My hand trembled as I pushed it open. Inside, the air smelled faintly of coffee and something metallic. The living room was messy, papers scattered everywhere, the computer left running. I walked closer and froze. On the screen was a half-written email to me. Subject, if I don't make it back. I swallowed hard and began to read. Emily, if you're reading this, it means they've found me. Carter knows I'm close to proving everything. The documents you'll need are in a black envelope in my desk drawer at the office. Don't trust anyone, especially Laura. She's not who she says she is. The sound of a floorboard creaking made me spin around. Someone was in the apartment. A shadow moved in the hallway. Tall, slow, deliberate. My pulse thundered in my ears. Without thinking, I grabbed my phone and hid behind the couch. The door creaked open again, and I caught a glimpse of a man in a dark coat wearing gloves. He stepped inside, scanning the room. I could barely breathe. He moved toward Ryan's desk, opened the same drawer Ryan mentioned, and took the black envelope. I wanted to scream, to stop him, but I couldn't move. My phone slipped from my trembling hand and hit the floor with a soft click. The sound made him turn sharply. Our eyes met for a split second. Cold. Dark eyes I'd seen before. Mr. Carter. I gasped. And before he could react, I bolted for the door. sprinting down the stairwell as his footsteps thundered behind me. My heart raced as I burst into the street, jumping into my car and locking the doors. I didn't stop until I reached the next block. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely hold the steering wheel. Ryan's words echoed in my head, "If anything happens to me, trust no one." The next morning, the office was tense. Whispers spread that the board had called an emergency meeting. Carter stood in front of everyone, calm and collected, as if last night had never happened. He even smiled at me. "Good morning, Emily," he said smoothly. "I understand you worked closely with Mr. Blake. Unfortunately, it seems he's taken an unexpected leave of absence." I forced myself to nod. "Do we know when he'll be back?" He shrugged. "Hard to say. I suppose some people just can't handle pressure." His words cut deeper than he knew. All day, I fought to keep my composure. But I wasn't going to sit quietly. During lunch, I sneaked into Ryan's office again. The drawer was empty now, no envelope. But in the bottom, beneath a pile of old reports, I found a small flash drive taped to the wood. I slipped it into my pocket and left before anyone saw me. That night, at home, I plugged it into my laptop. The screen filled with folders, financial records, fake invoices, offshore accounts. Every document linked Carter to illegal transactions, hidden behind shell companies. Ryan was right. He'd been framed. But as I scrolled deeper, one folder caught my eye, labeled Internal Recordings. There were several audio files. I clicked the most recent one. Ryan's voice filled the room. "If you're hearing this, Emily, I didn't want you involved. But I couldn't protect you without telling you the truth. Carter's been watching you since the day you joined. He knew we had history. He used it to control me." My breath hitched. He said if I didn't drop the investigation, he'd ruin your career. That's why I stayed distant. That's why I lied. I had to keep you safe. The recording ended, leaving only silence and my tears. For the first time, I understood everything. The coldness, the distance. The way he'd come back into my life, half broken but still fighting. He wasn't just trying to clear his name. He was trying to protect me. My phone buzzed again. A text. "Unknown number. You should have stayed quiet." This time there was a photo attached, of me, sitting at my desk that morning. They were still watching me. Fear turned into anger. They had already taken Ryan. They wouldn't take me too. I wiped my tears and looked back at the flash drive, at the evidence he'd risked everything to gather. If the board meeting tomorrow was about internal restructuring, as Carter claimed, that meant he planned to erase every trace of what Ryan found, including me. I had one night to decide: stay silent and survive, or expose the truth and risk everything. But when I thought about Ryan, his voice, his sacrifice, his love buried beneath all the lies, the choice became clear. Tomorrow, I was going to finish what he started. Morning came far too quickly. I hadn't slept a single minute. The flash drive sat on my desk, the blue light blinking like a heartbeat. Every second reminded me of what was at stake: Ryan's name, my safety, and the truth. I stared at my reflection in the mirror. My eyes were red, but my resolve was stronger than ever. Today, everything would end, one way or another. By 8:30, I was at the office. The board meeting was scheduled for 9. The corridors buzzed with tension, quiet whispers floating through the air. People sensed something was off. As I walked to my desk, Laura, the assistant, approached me with her usual fake smile. "Emily, Mr. Carter asked to see you before the meeting." I nodded calmly, even though my heart began to pound. "Of course. I was just heading there." She gestured toward the executive floor. I followed her through the glass doors, pretending to be composed. But every step felt heavier than the last. Inside, Carter stood by the window, his back to me, staring at the city skyline. "You've been busy, Emily," he said without turning around. "Digging into things that don't concern you." I clenched my jaw. "Ryan didn't deserve what you did to him." He chuckled softly. "Ryan made his own choices. He could have walked away." "He tried to expose you," I shot back. "You ruined his life." Carter turned then, his smile sharp as a blade. "And yet here you are, working for me. Maybe you're not that different." My blood boiled. "You're wrong." He walked closer, lowering his voice. "No, Emily, I'm not. Because people like you always break when they realize the truth doesn't save anyone. It just destroys more lives. He leaned closer, his tone dripping with menace. Now, before you do something foolish, hand over the flash drive. I froze. He knew. I don't know what you're talking about, I said, forcing my voice to stay steady. His smirk widened. You really think you can lie to me? My men searched Ryan's place again last night. You took something, didn't you? He reached out a hand. Give it to me, Emily. For a split second, my fingers brushed the drive hidden in my pocket. I met his gaze and then said, You'll have to take it from me. Before he could react, I turned and ran. His voice roared behind me. Stop her! I burst into the hallway, sprinting toward the elevators. Laura was there, blocking my path. But instead of grabbing me, she whispered, Go to the boardroom. Trust me, I hesitated, confused. But there wasn't time. I ran past her and pushed open the boardroom doors. Inside, the directors sat around the long glass table. The meeting hadn't started yet. Everyone looked up as I stumbled in, breathless. Emily? One of them said. What's going on? Carter stormed in seconds later, his calm mask slipping. She's not supposed to be here. I raised my voice, trembling but determined. They need to hear this. The room fell silent. Every eye turned to me. I took a deep breath, plugged the flash drive into the projector, and hit play. Ryan's voice echoed through the speakers. This recording is evidence that Mr. Carter embezzled millions through offshore accounts. He manipulated company data, framed innocent employees, and destroyed careers to cover it up. If I disappear, this is why. Gasps filled the room. Carter lunged forward, trying to pull the plug, but two directors stopped him. You have no proof this is real, he shouted. I clicked to the next folder, the financial records. Every transaction is time-stamped and verified. Check the signatures. Yours are on every single one. Carter's face turned pale. You think anyone will believe you over me? You're just a marketing assistant. I stared at him, voice steady now. Maybe, but Ryan believed in me. And now the truth will speak for itself. Security entered the room. The head of the board, an older woman named Ms. Collins, looked furious. Mr. Carter, you're suspended effective immediately. We'll be forwarding this evidence to the authorities. Carter tried to protest, but his voice was drowned in chaos. Two guards escorted him out as he shouted threats over his shoulder. When the door finally shut, silence filled the room again. Ms. Collins turned to me gently. Emily, where is Ryan? My throat tightened. I don't know. He's been missing since last night. Her eyes softened. We'll find him. You did the right thing, but the victory felt hollow. I should have felt relief, but all I felt was fear and sadness. That evening, I walked out of the building into the cool night air. Reporters were already gathering near the entrance, flashes lighting up the street. I slipped away quietly, clutching my bag. Ryan was still gone. I went home and replayed his last recording over and over. His voice, calm and strong, filled my apartment. Then, as if fate was listening, my phone buzzed. Unknown number? I hesitated, then answered. Hello? A familiar voice spoke, weak but alive. Emily, it's me. My knees gave out. Ryan, where are you? I'm safe. For now, he said quietly. Carter's men caught up to me, but someone helped me get away. I can't say much. The authorities are handling it now. Tears streamed down my face. You're alive. Thank God, I thought, he cut me off softly. You were incredible today. You did what I couldn't. Where are you? Please let me see you. He paused. I could hear the sound of wind, maybe from a train station or a safe house. Not yet. It's better if I stay hidden until everything's over. But I wanted to tell you. I'm proud of you, Emily. I bit my lip, trying not to cry harder. You don't have to go through this alone anymore. I know, he said gently. But sometimes walking away is the only way to protect the people we love. There was silence for a long moment. Then, softly, he said, Goodbye, Emily. The line went dead. I sat there for hours, holding my phone, staring at the city lights outside. Somewhere out there he was alive, starting over, maybe finding peace at last. Weeks passed. The company recovered, the scandal hit every headline, and Carter was arrested. I was promoted not because I wanted power, but because I owed it to Ryan to finish what we started. One afternoon, months later, I received a small envelope in the mail. No return address. Inside was a single photo. a quiet cafe by the sea, a steaming cup of coffee on the table. On the back, in familiar handwriting, were 4 words, "Still watching over you." I smiled through tears, holding the photo close. Ryan might be gone from my life, but his courage, his love, and his faith in me would always remain. Sometimes, endings aren't about losing someone, they're about finding yourself again, through their strength, their sacrifice, and the memories they leave behind.